Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke. But I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
I'm going to get started. I'm here with Deana Cotter. We just spoke about the difference between alcoholism and serial sedation a little bit. We touched on Carl Jung's contributions to Alcoholics Anonymous, and Deana brought up that Carl was a little baffled by his clients that were alcoholics, and he felt they needed to have some sort of spiritual experience to, I don't even know what to say, to survive, to live through it, how to stop drinking, whatever it was. So I want to sort of pick Deana's brain about what she interprets that spiritual experience to entail.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I feel like it's important to at least share this quote, which comes from our literature because spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in our literature and verbally, obviously, when we're helping other alcoholics. And what it means is a personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism. And it also means that can happen in different forms. So Bill Wilson, the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, had a white light experience where the desire to drink was lifted out of him suddenly and immediately. Now, he also went on to create a program that sufficiently allows us to continue to change so that we do stay away from a drink. So would that have been enough for Bill? Probably not. There's stories of him wanting to drink and his wife reminding him that what helped him the most was helping other alcoholics. So I just wanted to share that a little bit. But the spiritual experience that I had was, I think, what most people have that do recover from alcoholism, and that was through what we call our 12 steps. But the steps in general have helped me to let go of, well, first it's admitting I'm an alcoholic and I have a problem and I'm delusional. And it's moving on to get rid of the things that block me from God, or whatever term that you want to use. I do say God. But block me from God, which is blocking me from myself, a relationship with myself. And therefore, if I don't have a relationship with myself, I can't have a relationship with others. And isn't that kind of what life is about? So it allows me to get rid of the things, which, if you say, what are the things that block you? Well, fear, anger, all those lovely things that we can carry around that, we think are giving us a bad day, but they're actually giving us a bad life. Dishonesty, being a better person. You might think that, well, I want to be a better person, I will. But, when you're doing certain behaviors, let's say you gossip, let's say you gossip and you don't know why you gossip. Part of our work is learning, well, I gossip because I want to be liked. Everybody else was doing it, or I want to feel superior to others. It makes me feel good about myself. That's the core. We talk about confession and maybe religion. This isn't just about confession. It's about learning why we do things so we can change them and be better people. And there is the spiritual experience. And I was told when I first got sober by one of my mentors, she said, the same person you are today will drink tomorrow. I need to continue to change. I mean, of course, there's times in my life where it's been much more dramatic than it is now. I lead my life pretty good, but I'm still, not perfect and never will be. But, there's it's continuing continuing to change, continuing to have that spiritual experience.
I don't know how to synthesize that.
There's a lot to say, but yeah.
Well, I being autistic, I love doing this because it helps me understand on my island that it really, I hear you. So I'm dependent on you to explain it, and then it's hard to synthesize somebody else's experience. But
yeah.
You made the decision to want to relate more to others, and the fallacies of others was pointed out to you as a means to improve yourself. Fair?
The fallacy of others?
Yeah, meaning whatever gossiping or whatever that was deemed hurtful to others and to oneself, you learned to operate otherwise, and that's from which the spirituality was formed. Just choosing on a daily basis to not engage in things that helped you drink versus helped you stay sober.
Yeah, well, and it's a process. I mean, it's a process of taking a look at ourselves and taking a look at ourselves and where we're at fault. You know, even if you did something to me to harm me, why am I holding on to that, right? They say, like, a resentment is, I drink the poison every day because I'm the one that's hurting, like forgiveness is the answer. So it's taking a look at myself and where I fall short as a human being and being willing to change.
Yep. Okay.
Having that. And the spiritual experience is, part of it is you're delusional and even about some of your behaviors in the beginning. And that's why we have mentors and we're able to sort of counsel with them in a way, and we do journaling and getting all this stuff out, getting it all out and looking at it, shining a light on the truth of it all. Like I said, dishonesty we could go from cash register dishonesty to dishonesty to ourselves in our relationships, not speaking up for ourselves. Dishonesty is a huge topic that goes way beyond from stealing or lying, because sometimes we don't even know we're being dishonest. And so taking a look at that and learning how to be honest, those are the things that cause us to what an experience to have that place where the first time you're ever, you're afraid of confrontation and you're finally honest and it feels really bad and you feel yucky, but you get to that point where you're able to lay your head on your pillow. And the spiritual experience for me lies in when the change becomes a part, like we said earlier, the cellular, like it becomes part of me. I can't think my way into right action. I have to act my way into right thinking. It has to become me. And I never used to like that term, fake it till you make it, but I'm not faking it. If I want to be a certain way, that's not faking it. it's just harder for me to be that way until it actually becomes me.
Yeah.
Self-esteem comes from esteemable acts. Like those are the things that I learned in recovery that gave me that spiritual experience.
I get it now. It's hard for me because I'm so obtuse in ways. That's why I try to listen, because I'm very comfortable with sharing what I've been through and targeting those and finding those that can relate to my experience. But I'm no dummy and know that it's only a part of this. And the brain retreats to what's familiar. That's what makes it different from the mind. and during the break, I brought up something that I'm going to attempt again right now. I listen and read and do so many things, and I never want to misrepresent people, but this is coming up for me. And I told you at the break that Jordan Peterson speaks of the one weakness or shortcoming, and whatever word you want to use. I'm using my words, and it's my experience based on what I listened to, that the one shortcoming of Jung was he was too introverted about, going into self, and that works for a certain number of us, but others find solutions in the external, which eludes me totally, but I get it. Like, I can understand that. It just wouldn't have worked for me. But, sometimes you don't have the luxury of knowing what happened, so you have to come up with something that works for your brain. And I think people, I mean, especially with having, if we look at delusion as dissociation times 100, I don't know how you would come back from that without integrating external experiences. And the spirituality that you mentioned, as I'm interpreting it, is because you could take what you were going through and see an ascension based on, making the conscious decision every day, making your unconscious conscious. And I've said before, I say it often, that the unconscious is more conscious than our conscious minds. So if you tap into it, however you do it, that's the thing that, makes us resonate with whatever the hell we're trying to improve. The other thing I brought up in the break was, how did you know when you were feeling? Like, what was that like when you were able to feel instead of cut yourself off from feeling?
Yeah, I think that there was feelings in the beginning, but they were I wasn't going to say they're not real, but they were based on, God, I don't know how I want to say this. I don't know if the word immature is coming up, but so I remember being in rehab, and I was in rehab around in May, and it was Memorial Day, and I was so upset, and I was crying because I could never drink again. And now, granted, I was 29 years old, but I was really upset, and I wanted it to rain. It was Memorial Day, and everybody was going on a picnic. Those are the things that I felt. I felt these jealousy and, whatever. I can laugh about it now, but true feelings and getting to, I mean, I guess it started early on because obviously I reached my bottom. I didn't want to be the woman I was. I hated who I was. That was real. That was a real, genuine feeling, and getting more. I still didn't have clarity about alcoholism, but I had that feeling. And then as I started to do the work and started to work on myself, I started to be able to see reality and
An alternate reality.
Yeah, and I remember going to a funeral early on for a friend's husband. And I remember saying in that funeral, like, I'm feeling like it was real. And it's hard for me to put into language right now, actually, what that was like.
I'm sorry.
But getting sober for me, I didn't even know what kind of music I liked. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know anything about myself. I had known myself for so long. I had kind of just was delusional for so long. I lived for the drink. I drank to live. Like, it was just my whole world. And so getting sober was that journey too of discovering how I felt about everything. And the aha moments were a lot of times were because I had truth tellers in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I had to find women in my life that I trusted and that loved me enough to tell me the truth, and did it in a way that they said, I care more about your life than your feelings. Meaning sometimes I cried over that. Yeah, so I'm not sure if that's what you mean, but that, I mean, it's only by doing the work. I mean, for alcoholics, I'll say this, for alcoholics, it's life or death. So literally and spiritually, I guess, right? Literally life and death, to die or be on the street prostituting, be in prison. These are the places that we end up. Okay. Those are the places we end up, or we end up sober. And I think there's a little more urgency to do the work and not have to have all the answers. Versus even other programs, like maybe what you're talking about, even programs like Al-Anon, which is families of alcoholics. You know, we have this urgency. It can get pretty ugly.
No, and I don't know why I started saying no, but sometimes when I say no, I think I mean like KNOW. Hard to explain. As you're talking, my brain creates, I think, in pictures, patterns, and numbers. So my brain's creating a picture, and I'm picturing a boomerang that, you know, either has to circumvent the universe or just circumvent the earth. And what I've done and did it to myself was I had to circumvent the universe. Whereas when you make it about life or death, as you've exquisitely said a few different ways, you know, you're really just interested in circumventing the earth and getting your feet on the ground and having a footing. A lot of the things that I made important for me to understand was, you know, you, and I always hate to try to reiterate what somebody else said, but your journey back to yourself was, my journey was back to my soul. The woman that I am is very, very important, but for me, because of other beliefs that I have, and I'm not trying to discuss right now, it was, and again, it's just hard for me to synthesize because I haven't processed all the pictures. But you're teaching me so much, and I hesitate to go here, but I can relate to that experience with other battles that I've had, but not specific to alcohol because I'm not an alcoholic. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
the journey and the difference between sedating for 18 years, you know, knowing I was sedating my feelings. But that's vastly different from what you described. And I think it's important for people, like you said in the first podcast, about self-diagnosis. I mean, whatever that means, it's such an individual journey. Regardless of the commonalities, it's such an individual journey.
Yeah.
And I listen and read a lot to interpretations of Jung, but I'm trying to do more of watching him in interviews, reading his works. I just got the Red Book. I had it before. It's a long story, but I just got it back. And it's like the difference between checkers and chess. And I'm trying to develop my own feelings about his words because I put myself through a very similar experience, not nearly the length of time that took him to write the Red Book, but just through images and channeling and stuff to get to where I'm at. And that was after I hadn't had alcohol for over 2 years. And that goes into Dark Night of the Soul and goes into other types of spirituality beyond what we talked about. And I had told you I didn't intend to go there today, and I still don't. I'm trying to get some practical knowledge and help people discern what their struggle is. And I still stand behind serial sedation because that's what I was doing.
Yep.
Raised my kids through it. Did everything through it. A dissociative state without developing a dissociative disorder, which is where I think a lot of people exist. And whether you look out or look in, you got to look. Where are we in time? We're at, I like the 21-minute mark. All right, my dear. Well, let's. I don't think it's. I don't think blowjob jokes are where we should go. But what have you found has surprised you most working with women in recovery?
What have I found has surprised me the most with women in recovery? Well, I can say two things because one is sad and one is happy. And I'll say that sometimes I guess they go together. I mean, sometimes what women have lived through and done and been through and, climbed out of the fire, and to see a woman that is torn and broken and at the gates of hell and rise and see the light come back on and rise and just become beautiful. Each time I guess I'm surprised. I mean, I believe there's hope for everyone, but it's just so beautiful. It's just such a beautiful experience to watch that happen for a woman, because truly I've seen women when they first approach me, they are broken, or sometimes they don't seem as broken, and then all of a sudden it comes out. And so, and I've also been surprised by people that walk away, and it saddens me, but I have no control. Just like it's a self-diagnosed disease, it's also, you have to, you're not taking a pill. You got to do the work.
I got to be careful with this story. I had someone in my life, whether they were an alcoholic or a serial sedator, I don't know how they'd identify, but somebody who abused, tried sobriety, and consciously chose abuse again because they were unable to ride the wave financially, where their marriage was concerned, their relationship with their kids. They made a very conscious decision to choose alcohol, to not upset the apple cart in all those other arenas, which we didn't even touch on today for women, is so profound. And that person just looked at me and told me I was stronger than she was. And whether I am or not, one could argue that the decision she made took strength because she knew the consequence. yeah, I mean, standing up to this stuff, when I decided to stand up to stuff, I hadn't been drinking for some time, and then realized how much I was going to lose to stand up to continuing to be healthy. And I mean lose, boom, 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 boom. And I guess I couldn't do what you do. I couldn't do it. But to be on the front lines and knowing what people have to sacrifice in order to heal, and what falls away as far as finances, support, or lack thereof, however you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we you know, and again, not to start a subject that we could talk for 27 years about, but, you know, standing up and having your finances in order, being able to take care of yourself, your children, whatever the hell it is all part of this. That it's just not making the decision not to drink.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess there's different ways to think about that too. I think of my mentor, who her story is, her husband was abusive and alcoholic, and the only way she was going to stay sober is if she left, and she ended up in this dark apartment with nothing, and she sat there on the floor, and she had 2 kids, and she said, "If this is all I have, that's all I need." Like, there was like this spiritual bottom of just, I guess, sort of a faith too.
Faith.
There's this faith in that, you know, that if you take this step this way, that it'll work out. Maybe not as you picture it, but it will work out. Which is part of our, you know, program as well, because it's that hole in us. When we talk about the spiritual experience, it's the God hole. You know, it's like the space in us that's just empty. It's just black. And so, I mean, I'm just saying, like, I guess there's different. That would be, you know, a story that I would share with someone if they were sharing that story. I never try to tell anybody what to do, because we know where that can get us. And just share experiences, strength and hope of what other people did and what the outcome of that was.
Yeah.
And what are we, you know, every decision we make there's a consequence, whether good or bad, right?
Yeah. But just, you know, having the balls to make that decision.
Yep, exactly.
It just isn't equal. How about if I say that without getting into? It's just we don't have, you know, no disrespect, but we just there's many more things that. And again, I always say, I know how much pain men are in. I know how difficult it is. They tell me, but very often, women's decisions are tied to finances, children, parents, whatever the hell it is. It's just, you know, our support is you know, one another, and you know, we're at the mercy of I was going to say success stories, but not all stories are successful, but whatever we deem applicable to what we can make work.
Yep.
That was beautifully vague. So any I don't know. I see. I'll think more about this as a result of having done this. So I cannot synthesize on the spot. But is there any lasting or any thought you'd like to share or point you'd like to drive home?
No, thanks for having me, and anyone that's listening. If of course, I feel like I want to say this. If anyone's listening and they want to have a conversation, I'm open to that because if someone's struggling, whether they don't know what's wrong with them, I'm certainly not going to tell them. But if they want to find clarity, I'd certainly be willing to have a conversation. Whether they struggle with alcohol. Try to find themselves clarity if they need help or not.
And the name of your business, and you're located where?
Name of my business is Your Authentic Wisdom. And I am in Connecticut, but I'm online, so we can Zoom. And you can either do it by my name or yourauthenticwisdom.com or deanacotter.com. It brings you to the same place.
And you're a Deana, spelled Deanna.
No, one N. Deana.
Oh, shit.
Cotter.
Oopsie. I can't thank you enough. And I especially appreciate it knowing that, I always say I'm autistic first with an ADHD kicker. And if you can follow the bouncing ball, I really appreciate it because that's what I like to do. And I appreciate the journey we're on together. And I wish you what you wish for yourself times 100.
Thank you. And thank you. You too. And thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It is. It has been. Thank you, Deana. Stay on. Brian will end this and I'll just say goodbye.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the bouncing balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J-Ma.